Welcome to another deep dive, and this time we're tackling some seriously cool historical mysteries.
Yeah, we've got a really fascinating mix of stuff to go through. We've got articles, research papers, even some declassified documents.
Right. It's kind of wild how much information's out there just waiting to be pieced together.
It is, and that's what we're going to do today. We're diving into the mysteries of history, examining the evidence.
Exactly. Mysteries like Atlantis.
Oh yeah, Atlantis, the lost city swallowed by the waves. It's one of those stories that just captures the imagination, doesn't it?
It totally does. I mean, the idea of a technologically advanced civilization just vanishing like that, it's both terrifying and fascinating.
It is, and it's been fascinating people for centuries. Plato's descriptions of this amazing city with its silver and gold temples.
And all that advanced technology, right?
Exactly. But when we look past the myths and legends,
What do we actually find?
well, the evidence suggests a more complex story, one that involves a lot of different disciplines like archaeology, geology.
And volcanology, right?
You got it. So where was Atlantis? Well, there are tons of theories. Some people point to the Azores, others to the Canary Islands.
I've even heard theories about Ireland and the Black Sea.
Right, it's a global mystery. But one location that's gotten a lot of attention is Santorini, an island in the Aegean Sea.
Santorini, isn't that where that massive volcanic eruption happened?
Yeah, around 1600 BC, one of the most powerful volcanic events in history.
And some researchers think that eruption might actually be the basis for the Atlantis myth.
Exactly. The Minoan civilization, which thrived on Santorini and the surrounding islands, was devastated by the eruption.
That must have been a cataclysmic event.
It was, and the impact was felt across the entire Mediterranean. But here's the thing, the Minoans didn't disappear after the eruption.
They didn't, but I thought Atlantis was destroyed in a single event.
According to Plato, yes. But the Minoans actually continued to thrive for centuries after the eruption, which raises questions about the Santorini-Atlantis connection.
So maybe the Atlantis story is more of a cautionary tale.
A warning about the fragility of civilizations, even those that seem advanced and powerful.
It's a powerful message. But let's move on to a mystery a bit closer to home. America's Stonehenge.
Ah, yes. Mystery Hill, right here in New Hampshire. A site with a fascinating and mysterious past.
It's kind of crazy to think we have something like Stonehenge right here in the US.
I know, right? And the really cool thing about Mystery Hill is that it seems to have a multi-layered history.
What do you mean?
Well, there's evidence suggesting it was connected to the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad? Really?
Yeah, they even found shackles there, which makes you think it might have been used as a safe house for escaped slaves.
Wow, that's incredible. But you said multi-layered history, so there's more.
There is. Some researchers believe Mystery Hill might actually predate the Underground Railroad by a long shot.
So it's even older. How old are we talking?
We're talking potentially prehistoric. Some researchers believe it was built by European settlers who crossed the Atlantic long before Columbus.
Wow, like pre-Columbian voyages. But is there any evidence to support that?
Well, there's the astronomical alignments of the stones, which suggest a pretty sophisticated understanding of the cosmos.
I gotta admit, the idea of pre-Columbian transatlantic voyages is pretty mind-blowing. It really makes you question everything you thought you knew about history.
Doesn't it? And the fact that a site like Mystery Hill exists, potentially connecting us to both ancient European cultures and the Underground Railroad,
It's amazing.
it's a reminder that our history is a lot richer and more complex than we often realize. And speaking of complex and fascinating histories, let's move on to Petra.
Petra, the lost city in Jordan, carved directly into the sandstone mountains.
It's one of the most breathtaking places on Earth.
That looks like something out of a movie.
It does. Those elaborate facades carved into the cliff faces are just incredible.
But it's more than just a beautiful city, right?
Oh, absolutely. The Nabateans, who built Petra, were incredibly skilled engineers and traders. They were masters of water management.
Water management in the middle of the desert.
Exactly. They developed these really sophisticated systems of dams and cisterns and aqueducts.
That allowed them to not only survive, but thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth.
Right. They turned a desert into a flourishing metropolis. It's a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability.
It really is. And even though Petra was eventually conquered by the Romans, its legacy lives on. It's a reminder that even in the most challenging of environments, human ingenuity can prevail.
It's a powerful message. Now, from the desert city of Petra, let's journey to the rolling hills of England, to Silbury Hill.
Silbury Hill, this enormous mound of earth, I remember seeing pictures of it. It's massive.
It is over 130 feet high, and made entirely of chalk and earth and gravel. And what's even more mind-blowing is that it was built using only primitive tools and manpower.
It's hard to even imagine the amount of labor that went into building something like that. But the question is why? What was its purpose?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Archaeologists have been debating that for centuries.
Any leading theories?
There are a few. Some believe it was a burial mound for some powerful ruler.
Sort of like a giant pyramid?
Exactly. Others think it might have been a platform for a temple or some kind of ceremonial structure, or maybe even just a giant symbolic marker in the landscape.
So, no definitive answers.
Not yet. But we're learning more all the time. You know, Richard Atkinson, who excavated Silbury Hill back in the 60s, well, he came up with this three-phase construction theory. But recent research, using things like ground-penetrating radar.
That's cool.
It is. And it's revealed that there might actually be even more phases, even more layers to this hill.
So it's even more complex than we thought.
Exactly. And you know what's really interesting? Silbury Hill wasn't built in isolation.
It wasn't?
Nope. It's actually part of a larger complex of Neolithic structures.
Like what?
Well, there's Avebury, which is the largest stone circle in the world, and the West Kent Long Barrow, which is this massive burial mound.
So it was like a whole ceremonial landscape.
Exactly. A place of ritual and gathering and connection to the ancestors.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that these prehistoric societies,
they weren't as primitive as we sometimes think.
right, they had a deep understanding of astronomy and engineering and the landscape itself.
It's amazing. Now, from ancient earthworks to epic poetry and legendary heroes, let's dive into the story of the Trojan War. Fact or fiction?
The Trojan War. Immortalized by Homer in the Iliad and the Odyssey.
It's one of the most famous stories in history. A tale of love, betrayal, war, and those epic battles.
Right. But how much of it is actually based on fact? That's the question that's been debated for centuries.
Is there any evidence to suggest the war actually happened?
There is. Many ancient Greek historians, like Herodotus and Thucydides, believe the war was a real event.
And they placed Troy in a very strategic location, didn't they? Overlooking the Hellespont, controlling access to the Black Sea.
Exactly, which means controlling Troy would have given you a lot of power over trade and military movements in the region.
So it makes sense that there would have been conflict over such an important location.
Absolutely. And then, of course, we have the work of Heinrich Schliemann.
The guy who was obsessed with finding Troy.
That's him. In the 1870s, he excavated a site at Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey.
And he actually found evidence of multiple ancient cities.
He did, dating all the way back to the Bronze Age. It was a groundbreaking discovery that basically revolutionized our understanding of the Trojan War.
I remember reading about Schliemann. Wasn't he the one who claimed to have found Priam's treasure?
He was. A hoard of gold artifacts that he believed proved he had found the Troy of Homer's epic. And while his methods were, let's say, a bit rough around the edges,
He might have damaged some of the evidence in his excitement, right?
he might have, but his discoveries were nonetheless significant.
But wait, wasn't there some debate about whether Schliemann actually found the Troy of the Trojan War? Like the specific city described in the Iliad?
There was, and there still is. We know that Troy was destroyed and rebuilt multiple times.
I see.
So the question is, which layer of ruins actually corresponds to the city of Homer's epic? It's a debate that archaeologists are still having today.
Okay, so even if we can't say for certain that Schliemann found the exact Troy of Homer's tale,
We know that Troy was a real place.
and it played an important role in the history of the region.
Exactly. And what's really cool is that there's been some new research using archives from the Hittite Empire.
The Hittites.
Yeah, they were this powerful Bronze Age civilization in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey.
Okay.
And their records mention conflicts with a kingdom called Wilusa, which some scholars believe might actually be Ilios.
And Ilios is another name for Troy.
Bingo.
So we're starting to see these fascinating connections emerge between the archaeological evidence, the Hittite records, and Homer's epic poems. It's like piecing together a giant puzzle, isn't it?
It really is. And while we might never know for sure whether the Trojan War happened exactly as Homer described it,
It's clear that there's often a grain of truth behind these ancient legends.
right? And that's one of the things that makes studying history so exciting. You never know what you might uncover. Now, from the battlefields of ancient Troy, let's journey to the heart of the Mayan world, to Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza, this magnificent city in the Yucatan Peninsula. It's a testament to Mayan ingenuity, their incredible understanding of astronomy, their architecture.
It's a truly awe-inspiring place.
Yeah.
And the most iconic structure there, El Castillo, the Temple of Kukulkan, is a prime example of that Mayan fascination with the cosmos.
El Castillo is more than just a pyramid, isn't it? It's like a giant astronomical calendar.
You got it. It's got 91 steps on each of its 4 sides, which, when you add the platform at the top...
It totals 365, the number of days in a solar year.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop there. There are 52 panels, representing the 52-year cycle of the Mayan calendar round.
And 18 terraces for the 18 months of their religious year.
They incorporated their entire calendar and their cosmology into the architecture of this pyramid.
It's incredible. And it's not just about the numbers, right? They align this massive structure with incredible precision to mark the solstices and the equinoxes.
They did. And they even incorporated a serpent shadow illusion into the design. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, as the sun sets, a shadow appears to slither down the steps of the pyramid, representing the descent of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's a spectacular sight, and it draws thousands of visitors every year.
It's incredible how the Maya were able to combine their religious beliefs with their astronomical knowledge.
Just to create such a powerful and evocative monument.
And El Castillo isn't the only intriguing structure at Chichen Itza, is it? I mean, there's the Great Ball Court.
The largest ball court in Mesoamerica, where they played this ritual game.
Right, with all those religious and political implications.
Exactly. And the sacred cenote, which is this natural sinkhole.
I've heard about that. Wasn't that used for offerings and sacrifices?
It was. Chichen Itza was clearly a site of great religious and ceremonial significance to the Maya.
It's like stepping back in time to a world where the gods and the cosmos were woven into the fabric of everyday life.
It really is. Now, from the pyramids of the Maya to the enigmatic monument that guards the Giza pyramids, let's journey to the Great Sphinx.
The Great Sphinx. This colossal statue, with its body of a lion and the head of a human, it's been captivating us for millennia.
It's one of the most iconic monuments in the world, and it's no wonder. Carved directly from the bedrock.
It measures over 240 feet long and 66 feet high.
That's massive. Just think about the amount of effort and skill that went into creating something like that.
It's mind-boggling, and it's right there next to the pyramids.
Add into the mystique of the Giza Plateau, it's like it's guarding secrets from a time long forgotten.
So who built it, and why?
Well, the traditional explanation is that it was built by the pharaoh Khafre.
Whose pyramid is nearby?
Exactly, around 2540 BC. But there's a problem with that theory.
What's that?
There are no inscriptions connecting the Sphinx to Khafre. No definitive proof.
So the mystery remains...
It does. And of course, there are alternative theories. Some researchers believe that the Sphinx might be much older than we think.
What, like predating the pyramids?
Some even suggest that, like Robert Bauval and Graham Hancock, for example. They believe that the Sphinx, along with the pyramids, forms an astronomical map.
An astronomical map? What, like aligning with the stars or something?
Exactly. Specifically with the constellation Orion.
Orion? That's fascinating. But how could the Sphinx be older than the pyramids? Wouldn't that rewrite history?
Well, their theory suggests that the layout of the Giza monuments mirrors the position of the stars in Orion as they appeared in the sky around 10,500 BC.
10,500 BC, that's over 8,000 years before the traditional dating of the Sphinx.
It is. And while it's a controversial theory, it's certainly intriguing.
It is, especially when you consider the anomalies that have been discovered around the Sphinx.
You mean like the tunnels and pathways and chambers?
Yeah. What's the deal with those?
Well, some believe they might be natural features. Others think they might be later additions. But there are some who believe those underground structures might actually hold clues to the Sphinx's true purpose and origins.
So the mystery deepens.
It does. And that's part of what makes studying history so fascinating. It's like we're constantly peeling back layers, uncovering new secrets.
Speaking of secrets, let's sail to the island of Crete, to the home of the Knossos Labyrinth and the myth of the Minotaur. It's a place where archaeology and mythology collide, creating this really captivating blend of history and legend.
Knossos was the heart of the Minoan civilization, a Bronze Age culture that flourished on Crete for over 1,500 years.
They were pretty advanced for their time, weren't they? I mean, I remember seeing pictures of their art and architecture.
Yeah, they had this really sophisticated artistic tradition. They were skilled engineers, and their religious system was pretty complex. And at the heart of Knossos was the Great Palace.
A sprawling complex of rooms and halls and courtyards. I mean, it's so intricate, so maze-like.
It's no wonder it's associated with the legendary labyrinth.
Right, and the Minotaur, the creature with the head of a bull and the body of a man, trapped in the labyrinth. It's a story that's captured imaginations for centuries.
It has. And some scholars even believe that the Great Palace itself might have inspired the myth.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, the palace is so labyrinthine, it's easy to see how someone could get lost in there, how it could feel like a place of mystery and danger.
I guess it just goes to show how real-world places and structures can inspire these enduring myths and legends.
Exactly. And the Knossos Labyrinth, whether it's a literal place or a metaphorical one, it continues to fascinate us, to remind us of the power of storytelling and the enduring allure of the unknown. Speaking of lost civilizations and enduring mysteries, let's dive into the depths of the Pacific Ocean and explore the enigma of Lemuria.
Lemuria, this hypothetical lost continent.
Often linked to Atlantis. It's said to have connected Madagascar, India, and Southeast Asia.
I remember reading about Lemuria. It was proposed as an explanation for the similarities between the flora and fauna of these geographically distant regions.
Right. Back in the 19th century, scientists were struggling to explain how you could have lemurs in Madagascar and lorises in Southeast Asia.
They look so similar.
They do. And the prevailing theory at the time was that there had to have been a land bridge connecting these continents at some point in the past.
So they came up with Lemuria to explain that connection.
Exactly. But then came plate tectonics.
Ah, plate tectonics. That explains a lot, doesn't it?
It does. Continental drift, the movement of the Earth's continents over millions of years, that became the accepted explanation for those biological similarities.
So Lemuria, it's basically debunked, right? There's no scientific evidence to support it.
Not really. But, even though Lemuria might not exist, the search for it,
What about it?
it led to some significant advancements in our understanding of geology and evolution.
So even a wrong turn can sometimes lead to some pretty exciting discoveries.
That's science for you. Full of surprises.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of enduring mysteries and iconic structures,
Let's circle back to Stonehenge. It's one of the most recognizable prehistoric monuments in the world, and for good reason.
those massive stones standing there on the Salisbury Plain for over 4,000 years.
It's a sight that's both humbling and awe-inspiring.
It really is. And it's more than just a circle of stones. Stonehenge is a testament to human ingenuity, our enduring fascination with the cosmos.
Yeah, it's like a giant prehistoric calendar, isn't it? Aligning with the solstices and the equinoxes.
Exactly. It's clear that it was used for astronomical observation. But the exact nature of its purpose, that's still a matter of debate.
I see.
I mean, we know that it was built in stages over thousands of years.
Starting around 3000 BC.
Right? And recent research using laser scanning and ground-penetrating radar,
Those are really cool tools.
they are. And they've revealed so much about the site. We're discovering new structures, new features, including burial mounds and processional avenues. Yeah. And there's even evidence of feasting and rituals taking place there.
So it wasn't just about observing the heavens.
It was a vibrant ceremonial center, a place where people gathered to celebrate and mourn, to connect with the cosmos and with each other.
What an incredible place.
It is. And the fact that it continues to draw visitors from all over the world.
It's a testament to its enduring power to fascinate and inspire.
It really is. Now, from the standing stones of England, let's journey to the rolling hills of Ireland.
To Newgrange, another incredible prehistoric monument,
This one's a passage too.
predating both Stonehenge and the pyramids of Giza.
It's one of the oldest sophisticated structures in the world. And you know what's really amazing about Newgrange?
What's that?
Its alignment with the winter solstice. On the morning of the winter solstice,
The shortest day of the year.
right, the rising sun shines directly into the passage and illuminates the central chamber for a few brief moments.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's like a cosmic event built into the very structure itself. And it's thought to have been a powerful symbol of rebirth and renewal.
I see. The return of the sun after the darkness of winter.
It would have held great symbolic meaning for those people who live so closely attuned to the cycles of nature. The fact that they were able to construct a monument with such precision.
Aligning it perfectly with this specific astronomical event.
It speaks to their deep understanding of the cosmos. Now, from the ancient tombs of Ireland, let's journey across the Atlantic to the heart of the Andes Mountains.
To Machu Picchu, the lost city of the Incas.
It's a city shrouded in mist and mystery.
Hidden away for centuries high in the Peruvian Andes.
And its rediscovery in 1911 by Hiram Bingham, the American explorer, it was like a dream come true.
Imagine stumbling upon this ancient city, untouched by time, hidden away in this breathtaking landscape.
It must have been an incredible experience. And the thing about Machu Picchu is that it's remarkably well preserved.
I've seen pictures, and the stonework is incredible.
It is. The Inca were masters of dry stone construction. They fit those stones together so precisely without any mortar.
It's amazing, and the setting is just stunning with those terraced hillsides and incredible views of the surrounding mountains.
It's breathtaking. And, Machu Picchu is more than just a pretty place.
What do you mean?
Well, it was a sophisticated urban center. It's divided into these 3 districts, each with its own specific function.
Okay, so what were the districts?
Well, you have the agricultural sector, with its incredible system of terraces that allowed them to maximize growing space on those steep slopes.
I've always been fascinated by those terraces. It's like they turned a mountainside into a fertile garden.
Exactly. Then there's the urban sector,
with its houses and palaces and temples.
all beautifully constructed and laid out. And finally, the religious sector, with its temples and shrines dedicated to the Inca gods.
I remember reading that the Inca were particularly devoted to Inti, the sun god.
They were. The sun was a central element of their cosmology and their daily lives. And you can see that reflected in the architecture of Machu Picchu.
So what was the purpose of Machu Picchu? Was it a royal estate, a religious sanctuary, a fortress?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are so many theories. Some believe it was a royal estate for the Inca emperor Pachacuti.
That makes sense. It certainly fit for a king.
It is. Others think it might have been a ceremonial center.
A place where they performed their rituals and honored their gods.
Exactly. Or perhaps it was a refuge for the Virgins of the Sun.
The Virgins of the Sun.
They were women who dedicated their lives to the service of Inti. They lived in temples and played a vital role in Inca religious ceremonies, whatever its true purpose.
Machu Picchu continues to fascinate us.
It does. And it's a reminder that there's still so much we don't know about the past, so many secrets waiting to be uncovered.
That's one of the things I love about history. There's always a sense of mystery, of the unknown. And sometimes the most intriguing discoveries are the ones that raise more questions than answers.
I agree. And speaking of mysteries, let's turn our attention to a different kind of lost treasure, the Library of Alexandria.
Oh, the Library of Alexandria. It wasn't just a library, was it? It was a symbol of knowledge and learning.
It was a beacon of intellectual pursuit in the ancient world.
With its vast collection of scrolls, it drew scholars from all over the Mediterranean. It was a place where knowledge was gathered, shared, and preserved.
And its loss is considered one of the greatest tragedies in human history. Just imagine all the knowledge, all the wisdom that was contained within those walls.
And then to have it all destroyed.
It's heartbreaking to think about. But the exact circumstances of the library's destruction are still shrouded in mystery.
I remember learning about the fire started by Julius Caesar in 48 BC.
Right, but that fire likely only damaged a portion of the library. It didn't destroy the entire collection.
So how was it destroyed?
Well, it was likely a gradual process, a combination of factors.
Like what?
Political instability, religious conflicts, shifting cultural priorities. Over time, the library's funding dwindled. Its influence waned.
And its once vast collection was scattered and lost.
It's a reminder that even the greatest of institutions are not immune to the forces of history.
But even though the Library of Alexandria might be gone, its legacy lives on.
It does. In every library, every school, every place where knowledge is valued and pursued.
It's a testament to the enduring power of the human thirst for knowledge.
A thirst that can never be truly quenched. Speaking of enduring mysteries, let's journey to one of the most iconic structures ever built.
The Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a monument to human ambition, a testament to engineering skill.
And it's a source of endless fascination.
It's mind-boggling to think about the scale of this thing, over 480 feet tall.
Containing over 2 million blocks of stone, each weighing an average of 2.5 tons.
And all of this built over 4,500 years ago without modern tools or technology.
The logistics are mind-blowing. How did they quarry those massive blocks? How did they transport them? How did they lift them into place? These are questions that have baffled archaeologists and engineers for centuries.
So how is it built? Do we have any answer?
We have theories, but no definitive answers. The traditional explanation is that it was built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu.
Who ruled Egypt around 2580 BC?
Right. But even that theory has its problems. I mean, for one thing, no burial has ever been found within the Great Pyramid.
So if it wasn't a tomb, what was it?
That's the big question, isn't it? There are theories that suggest it might have been an astronomical observatory.
Maybe aligned with certain stars or constellations.
Right. Others think it might have been a giant energy generator.
A giant energy generator? That's wild.
It is. Some even suggest it might be a message from some lost civilization.
It's fascinating how this one structure can inspire so many different interpretations and speculations.
It's a blank canvas onto which people can project their own beliefs and fantasies.
Maybe that's part of its enduring power, the fact that it remains an enigma.
A symbol of the limits of our understanding of the past.
Speaking of enigmas, let's take a look at the Piri Reis map, this Turkish map from 1513.
Drawn on gazelle skin by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis. What's so fascinating about it is that it depicts parts of the Americas.
The Americas. But this was 1513, only a few years after Columbus.
Exactly. And what's even more intriguing is that it also shows a coastline that some believe corresponds to Antarctica.
Antarctica. But Antarctica wasn't officially discovered until the 19th century.
I know, it's wild, isn't it? Could it be evidence of some advanced seafaring civilization that explored the world long before the Europeans?
It's a mind-blowing possibility, but how could they have mapped Antarctica? I mean, wasn't it covered in ice?
Well, there's a theory proposed by Charles Hapgood, an American historian and geographer. He believed that the Piri Reis map was based on much older source maps.
Like how old?
Potentially dated back to a time before Antarctica was covered in ice.
So he's saying that there was this ancient civilization that had this advanced cartographic knowledge.
And that knowledge was passed down through the ages, eventually ending up in the hands of Piri Reis.
Wow. But isn't there some controversy surrounding the Piri Reis map? Like, aren't there some inaccuracies and inconsistencies?
There are, and those inconsistencies have led some scholars to question the map's reliability as a historical document.
So maybe it's not a reliable guide to ancient geography?
But it does raise some really interesting questions about the possibility of lost knowledge and forgotten civilizations.
It definitely does. It makes you wonder what else might be out there waiting to be discovered.
It does. And that's the beauty of history. It's an ongoing exploration, a never-ending quest to uncover the secrets of the past.
From a mysterious map to an artifact that's baffled experts for over a century, let's take a look at the Phaistos disc. Discovered in 1908 at the Minoan Palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete.
This clay disc is about 6 inches in diameter and is covered on both sides with these strange symbols.
They kind of look like hieroglyphs, but they've never been deciphered.
Right. It's like an ancient code that we just can't crack.
What are some of the theories about what the Phaistos disc might mean?
Oh, there are tons of theories. Some believe it's a religious text, others think it might be an astronomical calendar, still others say it's a legal document. Some even think it might be a game board.
A game board! Seriously?
Seriously. But despite over a century of research by linguists and cryptographers and computer scientists,
the meaning of the Phaistos disc remains a mystery.
It does. And what makes it even more intriguing is that the symbols on the disc...
They were created using stamps.
Yeah, which makes it one of the earliest examples of printing technology.
So not only is it a mystery, but it's also a testament to the ingenuity of the Minoans.
They were a truly remarkable civilization. And the Phaistos disc, whether we ever decipher it or not, it stands as a reminder that the past is full of mysteries that continue to challenge our understanding.
And speaking of mysteries, let's move on to one that's been the subject of debate and controversy for centuries. The Shroud of Turin.
Ah, the Shroud of Turin. A linen cloth bearing the image of a man who appears to have been crucified.
And believed by many to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ.
Right. But the shroud's authenticity has been questioned almost from the moment it first surfaced.
And there's been a lot of scientific analysis done on it over the years, hasn't there?
There has. And the results have been, well, inconclusive, to say the least. The most famous study was the radiocarbon dating done in 1988.
And didn't that suggest the shroud dated back to the medieval period?
It did. The results indicated it originated sometime between 1260 and 1390, which obviously would rule it out as the burial cloth of Jesus.
So, case closed.
Not so fast. Those results have been challenged by some who argue that the samples tested might have been contaminated.
Contaminated how?
Well, the shroud has been through a lot over the centuries. Fires, repairs, handling, all of which could have introduced foreign material into the fibers.
I see. So it's possible that the radiocarbon dating wasn't accurate?
It's possible. And the debate continues to this day. Some believe the shroud. They believe the shroud is a genuine relic, a sacred object. Others believe it's a clever forgery, a product of medieval ingenuity.
I guess it comes down to faith, doesn't it?
It does, to a certain extent. But, even if the shroud isn't what some people believe it to be, it's still a powerful symbol. It speaks to our fascination with the past, our desire to connect with history, and our yearning to believe in something greater than ourselves. And that's a powerful thing. Now, let's journey to the jungles of Costa Rica, where we encounter a mystery that's as baffling as it is beautiful: the stone spheres.
I've seen pictures of those. They're perfectly spherical, and some of them are huge, like over 8 feet in diameter.
They are incredible, aren't they? Hundreds of these stone spheres scattered across the Diquís Delta in southern Costa Rica.
It's like something out of an Indiana Jones movie.
It is. And the craziest thing is that we still don't know who made them or why.
So who are the main suspects?
Well, we know they were created by pre-Columbian societies sometime between 300 AD and 1500 AD.
Okay, so we've got a time frame. But that's a pretty big window.
It is.
Yeah.
And the specific culture responsible for creating the spheres is still a matter of debate among archaeologists.
And what about their purpose? What were they used for?
Again, it's a mystery. There are theories that they are astronomical markers.
Aligning with the stars or something?
Maybe, or maybe they were ceremonial objects used in rituals or religious ceremonies. Or perhaps they were simply symbols of power and status.
Or maybe all of the above. It's frustrating that we've lost so much context.
You mean because many of the spheres were moved from their original locations?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we knew where they were originally placed, maybe we could figure out their purpose.
It's possible. Unfortunately, a lot of archaeological sites have been disrupted over the years, either by looters or by well-meaning people who just didn't understand the importance of preserving the context of these artifacts.
It's a shame, but it also highlights the importance of responsible archaeology, right?
Absolutely. Preserving these sites in their entirety is crucial if we want to understand the past. And speaking of understanding the past, let's travel back to ancient Mesopotamia to examine an artifact that has sparked speculation about the technological capabilities of our ancestors: the Baghdad Battery.
The Baghdad Battery. That sounds like something out of a science fiction movie.
I know, right? But it's a real thing. It's a collection of 3 artifacts: a clay pot, a copper tube, and an iron rod that were found together in an archaeological site near Baghdad, Iraq, back in 1936.
And what makes them think it's a battery?
Well, when you put those 3 objects together in a certain way, they resemble a simple galvanic cell, like a basic battery.
So they're saying that batteries existed in ancient Mesopotamia, but batteries weren't invented until the 19th century.
I know it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But some researchers believe that the Baghdad Battery might actually be evidence of ancient electrical technology.
I'm trying to picture it. How would it work?
Well, the clay pot could have held an acidic solution, like vinegar or lemon juice.
Okay.
And the copper and iron would have acted as electrodes.
Creating an electrical current.
Potentially. It wouldn't have been a very strong current, but it's definitely an intriguing possibility.
So what would they have used it for? I mean, what would the ancient Mesopotamians need batteries for?
That's the million-dollar question. There are a few theories. Some researchers think they might have used it for electroplating.
Electroplating, like coating objects with metal.
Exactly. Others have suggested that they might have used it for medicinal purposes.
Like some kind of ancient electrotherapy.
It's possible. Or maybe even for some kind of ritualistic practices.
Like harnessing the power of electricity for religious ceremonies.
It's definitely a fascinating idea. And it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. I mean, we know that ancient cultures experimented with all sorts of things. And the fact that researchers have been able to build replicas of the Baghdad Battery.
And actually generate a weak electrical current.
Yeah, it definitely lends some credence to the idea. But ultimately, whether or not the Baghdad Battery was actually used as a battery in ancient times, it remains a mystery.
It's a mystery that makes you think, what else don't we know about the past? It's like we think we have a handle on history, and then something like this pops up, and it's like...
It throws everything we thought we knew into question.
Exactly. And speaking of things that throw our understanding of the past into question, let's dive into the biblical account of Noah's Ark and the Great Flood. Fact, fiction, or somewhere in between.
The story of Noah's Ark. A righteous man chosen by God to build a massive ark.
To save his family and 2 of every animal from a world-destroying flood.
It's one of the most iconic and enduring tales in human history. But is there any evidence to suggest that it might be more than just a story?
I mean, I know that the story of a great flood isn't unique to the Bible. There are similar flood myths in cultures all over the world.
You're right, and that's one of the things that makes the story of Noah's Ark so fascinating. Could it be that these myths are based on a real event? A catastrophic flood that left such a profound impact on human memory that it became woven into the fabric of cultures across the globe.
I've always been fascinated by that idea, a kind of collective memory of a world-altering event.
It's definitely a compelling concept. And there is evidence of some pretty significant flooding in various parts of the world dating back to ancient times.
Yeah, like the evidence of a massive flood in the Black Sea region around 5600 BC.
Exactly. When rising sea levels are thought to have breached a natural dam, inundating a vast freshwater lake.
That would have been devastating.
It would have, a truly catastrophic event. And it's not hard to imagine how such an event could have inspired the flood myths that we find in so many cultures. And of course, there's the search for Noah's Ark itself.
Right. The Ark is said to have come to rest on Mount Ararat in modern-day Turkey, and there have been countless expeditions over the centuries searching for its remains.
They have. And while there have been some tantalizing clues, some wood fragments, some formations that resemble a boat-shaped structure,
Nothing conclusive has ever been found.
it remains an enigma. But the search continues.
It's a testament to the enduring power of this ancient story. Now, from a world-destroying flood to a concept that seems straight out of science fiction, let's explore the intriguing evidence for ancient aircraft.
Ancient aircraft. I know it sounds hard to believe.
It does. I mean, we're talking about a time when people were still using stone tools and animal-drawn carts, right?
I know. But there are a few artifacts that have sparked debate and made some people wonder if maybe, just maybe, our ancestors had a more sophisticated understanding of technology than we give them credit for.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of artifacts are we talking about?
Well, one of the most famous examples is the saguaro bird, a wooden model discovered in Egypt in 1898.
The saguaro bird. I've seen pictures of that. It really does look like a glider.
It does, doesn't it? It's got a 7-inch wingspan and this really aerodynamic design.
And isn't there something about the hieroglyphs on its tail?
Yeah. They translate to gift of Amon, Amon being the Egyptian god associated with wind.
Interesting. So some people believe the saguaro bird is evidence that the ancient Egyptians might have understood the principles of flight.
That's the theory. But of course, not everyone agrees. Some scholars argue that it's simply a stylized representation of a bird.
A child's toy, maybe.
Possibly. But it's hard to deny the resemblance to a glider. And then there are the Kumbaya artifacts.
Oh, yeah, those are the small gold objects found in Colombia.
Right. Some people believe they represent ancient flying machines.
I remember seeing pictures of those. They're tiny, though, like only a few inches long.
They are small, but those who believe they represent aircraft point to their aerodynamic features.
Like what?
Well, some of them have wings, tails, even what look like landing gear.
Landing gear on a tiny gold object.
I know, it sounds crazy, doesn't it? But if you look at them, they really do resemble miniature airplanes.
Okay, so we've got these tiny gold airplanes and a wooden bird that looks like a glider. What else is there?
Well, there are also ancient texts and depictions that seem to hint at an awareness of flight. For instance, there are ancient Indian texts, like the Vaimanika Shastra, that describe flying machines called Vimanas.
Vimanas? What are those?
According to these texts, Vimanas were flying machines capable of traveling vast distances, even to other planets.
So other planets. Wow, that's some serious ancient astronaut theory stuff.
It is. And these texts go into quite a bit of detail about the construction and operation of these Vimanas, even mentioning things like mercury-based propulsion systems and solar-powered engines.
Mercury-based propulsion and solar-powered engines. That's pretty advanced stuff. Do we have any archaeological evidence to support these claims?
That's the thing. We don't. And that's why many scholars believe these texts are more likely to be works of mythology or allegory rather than literal descriptions of real flying machines.
So maybe those Vimanas are more like chariots of the gods.
Exactly. Symbolic representations of spiritual beings or celestial objects. But still, the fact that people were imagining the possibility of flight thousands of years ago is pretty fascinating, isn't it?
It is. It shows that the human imagination has always soared beyond the limits of our technology. And who knows, maybe one day we'll uncover evidence that proves our ancestors were even more innovative than we currently give them credit for. Speaking of ancient knowledge and lost civilizations, let's shift gears to a discovery that revolutionized our understanding of early Judaism: the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Oh yeah, the Dead Sea Scrolls. An incredible collection of ancient manuscripts hidden away in caves for centuries.
And their discovery, starting in 1947, it was like a window into the past suddenly opened.
It was a treasure trove of information about the history, beliefs, and practices of a Jewish sect known as the Essenes.
The Essenes were known for their strict adherence to Jewish law and their communal lifestyle, right?
They were. And the scrolls reveal so much about their beliefs and practices. Their focus on ritual purity, their communal living, their belief in the imminent arrival of a Messiah.
And what's really fascinating is the connection the scrolls reveal between early Judaism and Christianity.
Exactly. So many of the beliefs and practices that would become central to Christianity.
Baptism, communal living, the anticipation of a Messiah.
All of those ideas were already circulating within Jewish communities centuries before the time of Jesus.
It really challenges the traditional narrative of Christianity as a sudden break from Judaism.
It does. And it shows how much these two religions are actually intertwined, how much they share a common history and a common set of beliefs and practices. It's a reminder that history is rarely a simple linear progression.
It's more like a tangled web of influences and connections.
Exactly. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, they help us to unravel some of those threads, to see how ideas and beliefs have evolved and transformed over time. And speaking of transformation, let's move on to a captivating artifact that, while not as ancient as it was once believed to be, still has a fascinating story to tell. The Crystal Skull of Doom.
The Crystal Skull of Doom. It's a story that's both intriguing and a little bit embarrassing, isn't it? I mean, we all love a good mystery, but sometimes the truth can be a bit disappointing.
I know what you mean. The story surrounding the Crystal Skull of Doom is certainly a good one. F.A. Mitchell Hedges, this British adventurer.
Yeah, he claimed his daughter found the skull while exploring the ruins of a Mayan city in Belize.
Lubentun, to be exact. He believed it was an ancient relic, imbued with mystical powers and connected to the lost civilization of Atlantis.
Wow. It's a story that seems tailor-made for a Hollywood movie. Ancient temples, lost civilizations, mystical artifacts.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the story doesn't hold up under scrutiny. It turns out that Mitchell Hedges actually purchased the skull at an auction in London in the 1940s.
So no lost Mayan city, no ancient Atlantean relic?
Sadly, no. And scientific analysis has confirmed that the skull is a relatively modern creation, probably crafted in the 19th century.
So the whole thing was a hoax?
It appears so, but it's a hoax that's managed to capture the public imagination for decades.
Why do you think that is? What is it about the Crystal Skull of Doom that continues to fascinate us?
I think it speaks to our fascination with the unknown, our desire to believe in something greater than ourselves, something that connects us to the mysteries of the past, even if it turns out to be a fake.
There's still a part of us that wants to believe.
There is. And that's okay. It's that sense of wonder, that curiosity that keeps us exploring, keeps us asking questions.
Exactly. And sometimes even a fake artifact can spark our imaginations and lead us down some fascinating paths. Speaking of things that spark our imaginations and lead us down fascinating paths, let's talk about the Voynich manuscript, this illustrated codex written in an unknown script and language.
It's baffled cryptographers and linguists for over a century.
It's like a message from the past that we just can't understand.
It is.
Yeah.
And its very existence is a mystery. We don't know where it came from, who created it, or what it means.
The manuscript is filled with these strange diagrams, botanical illustrations, astronomical charts.
All rendered in this elaborate script that seems to defy interpretation.
What are some of the leading theories about the Voynich manuscript?
There have been countless theories over the years. Some believe it's a secret code containing alchemical formulas or religious secrets. Others think it's a lost language from a forgotten civilization. And then there are those who believe it's an elaborate hoax, a meaningless jumble of symbols designed to mystify.
So it could be a secret message, a lost language, or a clever joke.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so intriguing. It could be any of those things, or it could be something else entirely.
It's like a Rorschach test for the mind. People see what they want to see in it.
I like that, a Rorschach test for history. Until someone cracks the code.
The Voynich manuscript will continue to tantalize and torment us.
It's a mystery that's likely to endure for centuries to come.
And maybe that's not such a bad thing. I mean, a little mystery keeps things interesting, right?
It does. It keeps us humble, reminds us that we don't know everything. Speaking of mysteries and the things we don't know, let's delve into a topic that's both fascinating and a bit eerie.
Bog bodies.
Bog bodies. They're like something out of a horror movie, aren't they? These incredibly well-preserved bodies pulled from peat bogs.
Some of them thousands of years old.
It's amazing and a little creepy to think that we can look into the faces of people who lived so long ago.
I know. The bogs, with their acidic water and lack of oxygen, they create these unique conditions that prevent decomposition.
So the bodies are basically pickled. In a way, yes. And the preservation is remarkable. Skin, hair, internal organs.
Sometimes even their last meal is still intact.
It's incredible. And it gives us this amazing window into the past. We can learn so much about these people, their lives, their deaths.
What kind of things can we learn?
Well, we can learn about their diet, Their clothing, their health, their occupations. We could even get a glimpse into their beliefs and rituals.
Oh, right. Didn't some bog bodies show evidence of ritual sacrifice?
They did. Some of them were found with their throats slit, their limbs bound.
Others with strange objects buried with them.
It's a reminder that the past wasn't always a peaceful place.
Sometimes it was pretty brutal and unforgiving.
It was. But those darker aspects of history, they're just as important to understand as the more glorious ones.
It's all part of the human story.
It is. And the bog bodies, they give us this incredibly intimate and visceral connection to that story, a connection that transcends time and culture and reminds us that we're all part of this grand, interconnected web of human existence.
Wow, that's deep. But I get it. These bog bodies, they're not just scientific specimens. They're people with stories to tell, lives that matter.
Exactly. And their stories, even if they're fragmented and incomplete, they have so much to teach us about the past, about ourselves, of the enduring power of the human spirit.
Now, from the eerie world of bog bodies, let's return to a mystery that's both ancient and eternal. The Great Flood and the search for Noah's Ark.
The story of Noah's Ark, it's one of those tales that's been passed down through generations, told and retold in countless forms.
And it continues to captivate us, to inspire awe and wonder.
It does. And the question of whether or not it's based on a real event.
That's a question that's been debated for centuries.
It has. And it's a question that's likely to continue to be debated for centuries to come.
What makes the story of Noah's Ark so compelling, do you think?
I think it speaks to something deep within us. This primal fear of destruction, of being wiped out by forces beyond our control.
The flood, it's like a universal symbol of chaos and annihilation.
It is. But it's also a story of hope, of renewal, of the possibility of starting over.
And the Ark itself, this massive vessel built to withstand the storm,
it becomes a symbol of resilience, of the enduring power of the human spirit to survive even the most catastrophic of events.
It's a powerful story, even if it's just a story.
It is, and the fact that similar flood myths appear in cultures all over the world
makes you wonder if there isn't some kernel of truth behind them.
It does. Like maybe there was a series of catastrophic floods
that occurred at different times in different parts of the world.
And those floods left such a profound impact on the human psyche.
That they became embedded in our collective memory.
Exactly. And then there's Mount Ararat.
The legendary resting place of Noah's Ark.
This towering mountain in modern-day Turkey.
It's become a focal point for those seeking to prove the literal truth of the biblical account.
There have been countless expeditions over the years,
searching for the remains of the Ark.
Some have claimed to find evidence, but nothing conclusive has ever been discovered.
But still, the search continues.
It does. And I think that says something about the power of belief, about our desire to find tangible evidence for these ancient stories that have shaped our understanding of the world.
Maybe it's not about finding the Ark itself, but about the journey, about the search for something greater than ourselves.
I think there's something to that. The search for meaning, for connection, for something that transcends the mundane realities of everyday life.
Now, from a world-altering flood to the tantalizing possibility of ancient flight, let's dive into the intriguing evidence for ancient aircraft.
The idea of ancient aircraft, it sounds so improbable.
Like something out of a science fiction novel.
I know. But there are these artifacts and texts and depictions that make some people wonder if maybe, just maybe, our ancestors were more technologically advanced than we give them credit for.
All right, I'm ready to be convinced. Give me the evidence.
Okay, well, first up, we have the Socorro bird, this wooden model discovered in Egypt in 1898.
I've always loved the Socorro bird. It's got that really aerodynamic shape.
It does, and a 7-inch wingspan.
And the hieroglyphs on its tail, don't they translate to something about a gift of Ammon?
They do, and Ammon was the Egyptian god associated with wind.
Which makes you think, maybe there's more to this bird than meets the eye.
Exactly. Some people believe it's evidence that the ancient Egyptians understood the principles of flight, or at least they were thinking about it.
Okay, so we've got a wooden bird that might be a model of a glider. What else is there?
Well, then there are the Kimbaya artifacts, those tiny gold objects found in Colombia that resemble miniature airplanes.
Oh yeah, those are cool. But they're so small, how could they possibly have been real flying machines?
That's the debate, isn't it? Some people argue that they're simply stylized representations of birds or insects.
But others point to their aerodynamic features.
Their wings, their tails, even what appear to be landing gear. It's hard to deny that they do resemble tiny airplanes. But whether they were inspired by real flying machines or simply by the flight of birds.
It's a question that's still open for debate.
It is. And it's a debate that's likely to continue for as long as those little gold objects continue to spark our imaginations. Now, in addition to these physical artifacts,
there are also ancient texts and depictions that seem to hint at an awareness of flight.
you're thinking of the ancient Indian texts.
Yes, like the Vaimanika Shastra, which describes these flying machines called Vimanas.
The Vimanas.
Yeah.
These ancient flying machines capable of traveling vast distances.
Even to other planets.
According to the texts, yes. And the Vaimanika Shastra goes into great detail about the construction and operation of these Vimanas.
Even mentioning things like mercury-based propulsion systems and solar-powered engines.
It's pretty mind-blowing stuff, and while there's no archaeological evidence to support the existence of Vimanas as described in these texts, it's still fascinating to think that people were imagining such things thousands of years ago.
It shows you that the human imagination has always been capable of soaring beyond the limits of our technology.
It does. And who knows, maybe one day we'll uncover evidence that proves our ancestors were even more innovative than we currently believe.
Now, from the realm of ancient flying machines, let's shift gears to a discovery that revolutionized our understanding of early Judaism. The Dead Sea Scrolls.
Ah yes, the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in caves near Qumran, Israel, starting in 1947.
And containing a treasure trove of texts, including portions of the Hebrew Bible.
Commentaries, legal documents, hymns.
They've provided us with an unparalleled glimpse into the beliefs and practices of the Essenes, a Jewish sect that lived at Qumran centuries before the time of Jesus.
The Essenes were a fascinating group. They were known for their strict adherence to Jewish law, their focus on ritual purity, their communal lifestyle,
and their belief in the imminent arrival of a Messiah.
They believed that the end of the world was near.
And they were preparing for the coming of a new age.
A messianic age. And what's particularly fascinating about the Dead Sea Scrolls
is the connection they reveal between early Judaism and Christianity.
Exactly. Many of the beliefs and practices that would become central to Christianity.
Baptism, communal living, the anticipation of a Messiah.
All of those ideas were already present within Jewish communities centuries before the time of Jesus.
It really challenges the traditional narrative of Christianity as a sudden and complete break from Judaism, doesn't it?
It does. And it shows how much these two religions are actually intertwined, how much they share a common history, a common set of beliefs and practices. It's a reminder that religious traditions are not static. They're dynamic and constantly evolving. They're influenced by the cultures and contexts in which they emerge, and they're constantly being reinterpreted and reshaped by new generations.
It's a reminder that history is not a simple linear progression.
It's more like a tangled web of influences and connections, a conversation that's been going on for centuries.
And the Dead Sea Scrolls, they give us a chance to eavesdrop on that conversation, to hear the voices of people who lived and thought and believed long ago. It's an incredible privilege.
It is. Now, from the ancient wisdom of the Dead Sea Scrolls, let's move on to a captivating artifact that, while not as ancient as it was once believed to be, still has a fascinating story to tell. The Crystal Skull of Doom.
The Crystal Skull of Doom. This life-sized crystal skull, supposedly discovered in a Mayan temple in Belize.
A story worthy of an Indiana Jones movie.
But as we've discussed before, the skull's origins are far less mysterious than its proponents would have us believe.
Exactly. The story goes that F.A. Mitchell Hedges, this British adventurer,
he claimed his daughter found the skull while exploring the ruins of Lubuntan, a Mayan city.
A lost city, shrouded in mystery. He believed the skull was an ancient relic, imbued with mystical powers.
A connection to the lost civilization of Atlantis.
It's a great story, but unfortunately it's just that. A story.
Right. It turns out Mitchell Hedges actually purchased the skull at an auction in London in the 1940s.
And scientific analysis has confirmed that it's a relatively modern creation, likely crafted sometime in the 19th century.
So no lost Mayan city, no ancient Atlantean relic, just a clever forgery.
It seems so.
But you know, even though it's a fake, it's still a fascinating object. It sparked countless imaginations, inspired books and movies, and even become a bit of a pop culture icon.
I think it speaks to our fascination with the unknown, with the mysteries of the past. Even when we know something's a fake,
there's still a part of us that wants to believe.
There is. And that's what makes studying history so much fun. There's always that element of mystery, of the unexpected. You never know what you might uncover, what secrets might be revealed.
Speaking of secrets and mysteries, let's talk about the Voynich manuscript, this illustrated codex.
Written in an unknown script and language that's defied decipherment for over a century.
It's like a message from the past that we just can't understand.
It is, and it's driven cartographers and linguists crazy for decades.
The manuscript is filled with these strange diagrams, botanical illustrations, astronomical charts.
And it's all rendered in this elaborate script that seems to defy all attempts at translation.
What are some of the theories about its origins and purpose?
Oh, there are so many theories. Some believe it's a secret code containing alchemical formulas or religious secrets.
Others think it's a lost language from a forgotten civilization.
And then there are those who believe it's an elaborate hoax, a meaningless jumble of symbols designed to mystify.
So it could be a secret message, a lost language, or an elaborate joke.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so intriguing. It could be any of those things, or it could be something else entirely.
It's like a historical Rorschach test. People see in it what they want to see.
I like that. A Rorschach test for history. And until someone cracks the code.
The Voynich manuscript will remain one of history's most enduring enigmas.
A testament to the limits of our understanding.
And maybe a reminder that some mysteries are best left unsolved.
Perhaps. After all, a little mystery keeps life interesting, doesn't it?
It does. Now, from an indecipherable manuscript to a collection of incredibly well-preserved bodies that provide us with a unique window into the lives of people who lived long ago, let's delve into the fascinating world of bog bodies.
Bog bodies. They're both fascinating and a little bit creepy, aren't they?
They are. I mean, these incredibly well-preserved bodies pulled from peat bogs across northern Europe.
Some of them thousands of years old.
It's amazing to think that we can look into the faces of people who lived so long ago. It's like they're reaching out to us from across the centuries.
It's a powerful experience. And the preservation is remarkable. The acidic, oxygen-poor environment of the bogs inhibits decomposition.
So the bodies are basically preserved in this kind of time capsule.
Exactly. And it's not just the bodies themselves that are preserved. It's their clothing, their tools, even the food they ate.
It's like a snapshot of life in ancient times.
It is. And it gives us so much information about these people, their diet, their clothing, their health, their occupations.
And even their beliefs and rituals.
Exactly. Some bog bodies have been found with their throats slit, their limbs bound, indicating that they might have been ritual sacrifices. Others have been found with strange objects buried with them, suggesting that they might have held special significance within their communities.
It's a reminder that the past wasn't always a peaceful place.
It wasn't. And the bog bodies, they give us this incredibly visceral and intimate connection to that past.
It's a connection that transcends time and culture.
And reminds us that we're all part of this grand, interconnected web of human existence.
From the eerie world of bog bodies to a mystery that's captivated imaginations for millennia, let's talk about the Great Flood and the search for Noah's Ark.
The story of Noah's Ark, it's one of those tales that's woven into the fabric of our collective consciousness.
A righteous man, a devastating flood, a massive ark built to save humanity and the animal kingdom from annihilation.
It's a story that's been told and retold in countless forms across cultures and throughout history.
And the question of whether or not it's based on a real event.
That's a question that continues to fascinate and intrigue us.
What do you think it is about the story of Noah's Ark that resonates so deeply with us?
I think it speaks to some of our deepest fears and hopes. The fear of destruction, of being wiped out by forces beyond our control, but also the hope of renewal, of starting over, of finding a safe haven amidst the chaos.
The Ark itself, it becomes a symbol of that hope, doesn't it? A symbol of resilience, of the enduring power of the human spirit to survive even the most catastrophic of events.
Absolutely. And the fact that similar flood myths appear in cultures all over the world. It makes you wonder if there isn't some kernel of truth behind them.
Maybe a series of catastrophic floods that occurred in different parts of the world at different times.
And those floods, they left such a profound impact on the human psyche.
That they became embedded in our collective memory, passed down through generations.
Exactly. And then there's the search for Noah's Ark itself.
Mount Ararat in modern-day Turkey.
The legendary resting place of the Ark, according to tradition.
And countless expeditions over the centuries searching for its remains.
But so far, no conclusive evidence has been found.
But that doesn't seem to deter the true believers.
It doesn't. And I think that says something about the power of faith, about our need to find tangible evidence for the stories that have shaped our understanding of the world. Now, from a world-altering flood to a topic that seems straight out of science fiction.
It's fascinating to consider how these ancient stories might be intertwined with real-world events. But let's get back to those ancient aircraft. What other evidence besides the Saqqara bird and the Kumbaya artifacts is there to suggest that our ancestors might have known about flight?
Well, some people point to ancient texts and depictions that seem to hint at an awareness of flight. For instance, there are ancient Indian texts, like the Vaimanika Shastra, that describe flying machines called Vimanas.
Vimanas? What are those?
According to these texts, Vimanas were flying machines capable of traveling vast distances, even to other planets.
To other planets? Wow, that's some serious ancient astronaut theory stuff.
It is. And these texts go into detail about the construction and operation of these Vimanas, including the use of mercury-based propulsion systems and solar-powered engines.
Mercury-based propulsion and solar-powered engines. That sounds incredibly advanced for ancient technology. Do those texts provide any concrete evidence that these Vimanas actually existed?
That's the debate. Some believe these texts are evidence of a lost ancient technology, while others argue they are simply works of mythology or allegory. There's no archaeological evidence to support the existence of Vimanas, as described in these texts, and many scholars believe they are more likely to be symbolic representations of spiritual or celestial beings rather than literal flying machines.
I see. So while these texts are intriguing, they don't provide definitive proof of ancient flight.
Right. It's important to approach these claims with a healthy dose of skepticism. But that doesn't mean we should dismiss them entirely. The fact that these ideas existed, that people imagined the possibility of flight thousands of years ago, is still fascinating.
It speaks to the power of human imagination and our enduring desire to transcend our earthly limitations.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day we'll uncover evidence that proves our ancestors were even more innovative than we currently believe.
It's exciting to think about all the mysteries that might still be out there waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. That's what makes studying the past so compelling. There's always something new to learn, always another puzzle to solve.
Well, that was an incredible deep dive. We've explored some of history's most enduring enigmas, from lost cities and ancient aircraft to controversial relics and baffling manuscripts.
It's been a fascinating journey through time and across cultures. We've encountered civilizations that thrived and vanished, leaving behind only tantalizing clues to their existence. We've examined artifacts that challenge our understanding of technology and the capabilities of our ancestors. And we've delved into stories that have been passed down through generations, blurring the lines between myth history and our collective imagination.
What I find so captivating about these mysteries is that they remind us that there's still so much we don't know about the past. For every question we answer, new questions emerge, inviting us to dig deeper, explore further, and continue the never-ending quest for knowledge and understanding.
I agree. History is not a static subject. It's a dynamic and evolving field of study. And as we continue to explore the past, we inevitably learn more about ourselves and our place in the world.
So what's the most important lesson we can take away from our exploration of these historical mysteries?
I think it's the importance of curiosity, open-mindedness, and critical thinking. When we approach the past with a sense of wonder and a willingness to question assumptions, we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities. We discover that history is not a collection of dry facts and dates, but a rich tapestry woven with threads of human ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So to our listeners, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. The past is full of wonders waiting to be discovered.
And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to uncover the next great historical mystery.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the mysteries of history. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those imaginations ignited.